My name is Jons Vision. I live here in San Diego, been here for the last 10 years. I'm originally from Honduras. I was born there when I was 6 years old. I came to the United States. My parents immigrated to Ohio just for a better life, a better opportunity. So I grew up in Ohio. When I was 20 years old, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, raw simplified. So I did 4 years in the Marine Corps, got stationed in California. So that's what initially brought me out to San Diego. And then I did a tour also in Iwakuni, Japan. So I got to live there for 6 months, which was fun. Did my 4 years in the aviation logistics kind of department, and then after 4 years I got out, and that's when I started my entrepreneurship kind of venture. I got involved with network marketing, learned a lot of great things in those two and a half years that I did it. Started my own fitness apparel company after that, did okay for about a year, but that wasn't really going anywhere, and then decided to let that go. And that's kind of when I got involved a lot in my church, did an internship there, and then halfway through my internship I got involved in the solar industry, and that's where I'm at today. But in the solar industry for the last 7 years now. I am the senior director for Legacy Power in the Valor division, and for the last 7 years I've been able to run a sales team, be able to empower people, teach people the art of door knocking and how to make great money by selling solar.
What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze.
So my name is Josie Soriano. A little bit about me. I am a Southern Belle originally, so I'm from Tennessee, a long way away from California. I started out, I'm an only child, so I came up a spoiled little girl. Went to hair school. I became a hairstylist. I ran a salon in Tennessee for 3 or 4 years. And I was managing the salon. It was amazing. Got a lot of good clients under my belt, a lot of good experience under my belt. I too come from a commission job like my husband. And while I'm working there, I met John. I'll segue into John. I met John on Instagram. So we were buddies for 5 years. On Instagram, we had never met. And I'm like hustling, I'm bossing by myself. So I have a son, I'm a single mom in Tennessee. Met this guy on Instagram. We had this back and forth friendship for 5 years. And he kept coming at me and he was like, hey, come out to California, come out to California. And I was like, you're a creep, I'm not coming out there, I don't know you. And about 4 years ago, he sent me a DM and he was like, please come out to California, I wanna meet you. So I finally agreed. I was like, okay, I'll get to know you, let's do it. So we developed this relationship. We became boyfriend and girlfriend before we ever even met, just pretty nuts. And I decided to fly out to San Diego to meet him, and we were engaged 6 months later. Married a year later.
Okay, my turn.
Let me do it with you, I know how to do it.
How it started is 7 years ago. I had a friend of mine, he hit me up and he's like, hey, you gotta get in solar. And I asked him questions. I'm like, okay, why? He was telling me how renewable energy was experiencing one of the largest transfers of wealth. He's like, a lot of money is going from the old money of fossil fuels and natural gas and into the renewable sector. So after hearing him out, I was like, great, this sounds awesome. So I gave it a shot. He connected me with the leader in the San Diego office at the time. First few months, I sucked. I wasn't the very best, but I saw the bigger picture. I kept going. And then fast forward 7 years now, I've been able to accomplish great things. We've been able to do hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue in those 7 years, and it's been awesome.
When I got here, I started to dip into the entrepreneurial world. I too got into network marketing like John did, and then I became a growth coach. So I'm a life coach. That's what I've been doing here in San Diego for the past 2 years. Now I'm pregnant, I have a baby. I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom. We get to run our own schedule, raise my babies from home. And yeah, I am really passionate about marriage. I'm passionate about helping women become the best version of themselves, really break out of the 9-to-5 mold, just see they can do more for themselves, not have to work under somebody, and be a badass.
The vision and the mission of the General Jon Brand, kind of what I want to be known for is I want to empower a generation of men to become men of valor. I find in society we're losing what it really means to be a man, what it means to have masculine energy. And I find actually there's attack on masculinity right now. So my mission is I want to just change, and I want to encourage men that, hey, it's okay to step up, right? That you need to become the leader in your household, the leader in business, the leader in politics, right? Because we need men to step up. So that's my vision. I really want to empower men to become men of valor. And what valor means, essentially an individual that can do hard things, an individual that can go go into battle, not be afraid, right? Not back down from the battle, but go into battle with discernment, right? With a sound mind. So that's my mission, to empower men to live that life. What keeps me motivated is my family. Growing up, I saw my dad and my mom, they worked so hard to provide for us. And although they made okay money to where we could have a good life, we never saw them. And I never really got to spend quality time with my mom, spend quality time with my dad. And I felt like there were certain parts of my childhood that were robbed because of that. And don't get me wrong, my dad and my mom, they did the best they could, but I wish I would have had more of them. So my mission is, I'm doing this for my wives, for my family, because I want to make sure that not only do I take care of my family financially, to where everything's provided for, to where we can live a life of abundance, we can travel whenever we want, right? We can get the steak if we want and not to settle for the chicken, but also so that they can see me. I also believe that true success also involves time freedom. So I will also want to have the ability to see my family, that if one day I don't want to go to work, that I have the option to do so because I can spend it with my family. So they're my why, just to live a life to, when I die, that my sons, my daughters will carry on the legacy that I'm building.
You should tell them some of your favorite affirmations.
Oh yeah, that's the mic.
No, talk to it.
Hello, 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 like that. Show your muscles. Come on, show it, flex. Show both arms. Oh, show us your chest muscle. Oh, yeah.
Who's the boss of the house? Tell the camera who's the boss.
Mommy.
Good job.
And tell the camera, how old are you?
4. Jon Soriano is the best husband in the world, ever. He's a man of high integrity. That's one thing that I will say about him, is he is who he is behind closed doors and in front of everyone. He never changes. He's always the same person. High integrity. He's been through a lot. So, he used to be homeless. I can't even believe that when I met him, the Jon Soriano that I met is not the Jon Soriano who he was a few years prior. He was homeless on the streets of San Diego. I remember him telling me he was sleeping on a used mattress. So he really has just come up from the gutter. And I love when I hear people try to give their victim story and, oh, this is why I can't do things. And I always point to Jon and I'm like, no, this guy is from Honduras, came here, served his country, ended up homeless, has literally come up through the ranks. And yeah, he's just an overcomer. He's a leader. He's an achiever, phenomenal husband, phenomenal father. I literally can't believe I get to be married to him.
My biggest inspiration is Jesus Christ. I got saved about 7 years ago, and when I became a Christian, it radically changed my life. And just understanding what he did to essentially give us the ability to go out there and live a life of empowerment has changed me. So he's my inspiration. I owe everything to him. Every success that I've had in my life, every failure, every loss, everything, I would not have been able to do it without him. So my inspiration is him, to essentially know that I'm living out the life that he's called me. I know he's called me to live a life of empowerment, a life of just big impact. Ultimately, when I go on to the next, the phase of this life, I want to be received with, well done, good and faithful servant. Essentially, he's my inspiration that keeps me going.
One thing that I really respect about him is the division that he's built here in San Diego. We have a massive sales force. Is he thought for months about what he wanted to name it. And he came up with the name Valor. I think one reason why our culture is so dialed in, why the energy is so high, is because he had a vision of, he just likes to take misfits. He likes to take people who are average and turn them into above average people. That's the mission. I really love that about him because I've seen him do it. And I feel like people really buy into that vision. They're like, that's me. I used to be a drug addict, or I used to be homeless, or I used to be, whatever. And they've bought into the vision that he's painted. So I think he's really good at helping people change their lives. And yeah, he's a facilitator of growth.
So in the next 12 months, some goals that I want to accomplish is, first and foremost, my wife is due any day now. So I want to learn what it means to be a father of 2 now. So super excited for that, but that's definitely one of my goals. Another goal is, me and my wife, we want to buy a home here in San Diego. The market is crazy right now, right? Inflation is at an all-time high. Price of real estate is also crazy. Most, the average home here in San Diego is around $700,000-$800,000, but we're believing that we can get not just any house, but a house that we want, kind of a little bit of a level below a dream house house. And so in the next 12 months, we believe that we'll be able to do that. We've been able to work with our CPA and our accountant to be able to, make sure that certain things are in order, to make sure that we don't also overextend ourselves, in getting kind of our dream home. So that's kind of one of our biggest goals right here. Another goal I have too within just solar is to be able to have our division be able to do 800 plus accounts a month. So right now we're averaging around 300 to 400 a month, but I want to be able to at least double that in the next 12 months, if not get to 1,000 plus accounts every single month. I think it's important, at least on how to combine family and business. So number one, it's understanding that at least on the children component, children, they don't watch what you say, they watch what you do. So it's important that your son, your daughter, especially if they're between the age of 3 to 7, that they don't just hear you talk about work, that they actually see you, right? That they understand what it means to work. Right now we're teaching our son essentially the concept of money, right? Because he sees us pay for stuff, but he doesn't quite understand it. So in terms of how do you combine the two, take your son, take your daughter to work. There's some days where my son comes to correlations with me to our sales meeting, and he just sits there. And I want him to observe like a sales meeting. I want him to see the culture, right? The training, because at that age, right now, he's learning everything. Between the age of 0 and 7, that's when all humans, that's when their paradigms are formed. That's when their limiting beliefs are formed. That's when they'll either have a poverty mindset or an abundance mindset. And I want to make sure that my son, right now he's 4, as he gets older, right, that he sees that, okay, cool, I can have an abundance mindset, that I can have it all. So on the children's side, just allow your son or daughter to actually see what it is that you do, regardless of what it is. And then my wife, I tell her about all my work stuff. I find that sometimes men, they want to separate the two, right? When they come home, they don't want to tell their wives what's going on in their business, right? They're just like, no, because maybe part of them believes that their wife actually can't help them, that their wives, you don't understand what's going on because maybe they're not in it. And I've actually discovered that my wife will give me some great insight. Sometimes I'll tell her what's going on in the business world, and she will say, actually, I think you need to do this. And I promise you 10 out of 10 times, she's right. There was actually one time, I remember specifically, there was this one guy she told me not to hire. I told her, hey, we're gonna hire this guy. She told me, I don't know. There's just something about him, Jon, that I just don't trust. And I was like, babe, it's okay. It'll be great. And then, a year later, it actually turned to where he tried to screw me over. Had I listened to my wife, I would have avoided that whole thing. Trust your wife. I think it's important to actually merge the two.
Being married to an entrepreneur, to this entrepreneur, it was a struggle at first because he's always on the phone, he's always texting, or he's always on the laptop, or he's always in meetings, he's always meeting people. So it's been a challenge for sure, but I had to he sold me on his vision as well. So he's like, listen, this is what we gotta do. I have really had to come under his leadership and come under his ability to be a husband. It requires a lot of patience, a lot of understanding. There are a lot of days, there are a lot of nights where I don't see him, but every year we continue to impact more people, our income continues to go up, and I've just learned that if you want to be married to an entrepreneur, if you want to keep your husband around, don't nag, don't gripe, just support him and be grateful. Showing gratitude for him has been one way that I stay happy in our marriage is instead of nagging and looking for the holes, I always just show gratitude for how hard he works.
The most beautiful thing in being a father is just seeing the love you show them reciprocated back to you. When Balin was just an infant, right, when he was 1 year, 2 years, before he could talk, before he could really construct sentences, it was like love was like one way. It was just like we showed him love, but we never got it back, right? Or we expressed gratitude, but he never gave it back. When he got to about 3 years old, when he could finally talk, his emotional intelligence was being developed, and he could express love back, that just melts your heart. When I come home and he just says, Daddy, I missed you. Daddy, I love you. Like that just melts your heart, because for the first few years, you don't get any of that. It's like talking to a brick. The first few years, like you see the baby's crying, right? Or I remember when he went through a biting phase, like there was this phase where he would slap us all the time or bite us. And then there'll be days where I'm like, do you not know what we do for you? Like, show some gratitude. But his mind isn't developed it. So now he does show that. Right now, he can have a conversation with me. He can express love back. And that is just so fulfilling, just to see that essentially it wasn't all in vain. What I sowed into him, I'm reaping now. And I'm excited for what that means in the years to come, because I don't know what it's like to raise a teenager yet, but I'm gonna assume here that it's gonna be even much more than what I've experienced so far.
Grateful for mommy and daddy. I'm not alone and I feel great.
There you go. If I, which I will, talk to Balin and baby S in 15 years, and I would tell them that every sacrifice and investment that we're making right now is for them and is for their children. We are just busting our ass to make sure that they get to live the best life possible, that them and their spouses and their children get to live the best life possible, that we are as present as we can be, but we are building an empire and a legacy for them.
The advice that I would give to my younger self is just to fail faster. That's it, fail faster. I find that too often we are afraid of failure. Education system, the public school system teaches us that getting an F is bad. So at a very young age, we're conditioned to believe that failure is bad. Because when you go to school, if you get an F, that's failure. If you get an A, that's good. So we're taught in a way not to make mistakes, right? Like, it's bad if you get an F on a test. It's bad if you get certain questions wrong in school. So as we grow up, we think then that the whole concept of failure is bad, that, oh no, I have to ace it every single time, because that's how school was set up. So it's hard to have success in that. And I find that, at least when I was younger, when I first started, I was afraid to take massive action out of fear of failing. But I've actually discovered that failure can be your best teacher. It can be your best mentor, because with every failure there is a lesson, and if you search for that lesson, you will actually grow a lot more. So I would just say fail faster, fail often, okay? Because the faster you fail, you will eventually get to success. So what I would say to 60-year-old Jon is just always remember where you came from. Humility is very important in this pursuit of happiness that we're all on. And never forget where you came from. Because I've discovered, my mentor, if you remember, our mentor Colin, he taught us that for every 50 people that can handle adversity, only one of those people can handle prosperity. Because sometimes prosperity, whether it's status, money, cars, things, it can take us out. But ego has taken out more men than failure ever will. Don't forget where you came from. Remember your root, because if you stay rooted in that, you will be able to retain everything you've built so far.